can't understand something the first time you learn it, you're not alone, and that's actually a good thing. Your brain is built to learn through repetition, not instant clarity. So when you find yourself struggling to grasp a new concept or skill, don't panic. That struggle, my friend, is part of the process. It's what experts call desirable difficulty. In this episode of BrainFuel, we'll explore what this really means and how understanding it can help you learn more effectively and efficiently. So, sit tight because we're about to fuel your brain with some serious learning power. Welcome back to BrainFuel Station. I'm your host. This is the show where we talk about all things learning and self-development so that you can upgrade your skills, master your mind, and live an extraordinary life. And today, we are rediving into a topic that many of us struggle with, but rarely talk about: not getting it the first time. As a neurocoach, I've spent years helping people just like you learn and remember new things faster. And let me tell you, not getting it the first time is not a bad thing. In fact, it's an excellent sign that your brain is working hard to make sense of something new. Now, before we dig deeper, let us take a moment to acknowledge that there are times when not understanding something the first time could be a problem. For instance, if you're learning a new language and you don't understand the basic grammar rules right away, it can lead to incorrect habits that are tough to break later. Or if you're retrying to learn a musical instrument and you do and understand how to hold the notes, you might develop bad technique that will take extra work to correct. However, this is by no means an absolute rule. Many people have learned complex skills and mastered them despite early struggles. The key is to recognize these challenges early and be willing to put in the extra effort to get back on track. But let's focus on those times when not getting it the first time is actually a positive thing. When you're learning something new, your brain is making sense of a jumble of unfamiliar information. Your brain doesn't know what's important and what's not. It doesn't know where to start. This initial confusion is completely normal. It's even a good thing because it means your brain is actively working to sort through the new information and figure out where it fits in with what you already know. This is a crucial step in the learning process. It's how your brain turns raw data into usable knowledge. Now here's the interesting thing. Your brain doesn't do this sorting and organizing in one pass. It takes multiple attempts over time. Each time you encounter the new information, your brain compares it to what you already know and refines its understanding until finally it clicks. The struggle to understand something new is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that your brain is doing its job. So instead of getting frustrated when you don't get it the first time, celebrate it. It means you're on the right track. So what should you do when you find yourself struggling to learn something new? First, don't reread. Our brains love stories. We learn best when information is presented in a narrative form. So instead of rereading the same page over and over again, try to rephrase what you're reading in your own words. Explain the concept as if you were teaching it to someone else. This helps your brain make sense of the information and remember it better. Second, look for another source. Sometimes we get stuck because we're too focused on one particular source of information. It might be a book, an online course, or a person teaching us something new. But by limiting ourselves to just one source, we're missing out on the chance to see things from different perspectives. Other sources of information can help us fill in any gaps in our understanding and can provide new insights. We might find that what we did and understand before suddenly clicks when we hear it explained in a different way or see it presented in a different format. By exploring different sources, we open ourselves up to new ways of thinking and understanding. We challenge our assumptions and expand our knowledge. And third, wait one day, then review again. Our brains need time to process new information. It's like a sponge that gets soaked with water when it's squeezed. All the water comes out. But if you let the sponge rest, it'll eventually dry and be ready to absorb more water. Similarly, if we try to cram too much new information into our brains at once, we'll get overloaded and end up forgetting most of what we've learned. But if we give our brains a break and come back to the material after a day or two, we'll be able to absorb more information and remember it better. This spacing effect is a powerful learning tool. It's based on the idea that we remember things better when we have gaps in our study sessions, rather than when we study for long periods of time without interruption. By taking advantage of the spacing effect, we can trick our brains into remembering more information by forcing those gaps. can make our study sessions more effective and efficient. Learning is not a test. It's training. Think about when you go to the gym to lift weights. You don't get frustrated when you can't lift the weight right away. You would unexpect to walk in and be able to bench press 225 pounds without any prior experience, would you? Of course not. You know that lifting weights is a skill that takes time and practice to develop. Just like physical strength, your brain needs time to build up its mental strength too. You can't expect to read a book and retain every single detail immediately. It takes time for your brain to process and internalize new information. So don't be discouraged if you don't understand something the first time around. Instead, see it as an opportunity to grow and develop your mental fitness. Desirable difficulty is not a flaw in your intelligence. It's not a reflection of your ability. Desirable difficulty is simply the natural byproduct of learning something new. Any skill, anything worthwhile, takes time and effort to learn. So don't be afraid to struggle a bit. Embrace the challenge and enjoy the process of learning something new. So the next time you find yourself struggling to learn something, don't panic. Instead, rephrase what you're learning. Look for another source of information, and then wait a day and review again. Remember, confusion is a signal, not a stop sign. It's your brain's way of telling you that you're on the right track, and that's a good thing. Before we wrap up, I want to invite you to share your thoughts. What's something you struggled to learn the first time? How did you handle it? What did you learn from the experience? Share your story in the comments below. Who knows? You might help someone else who's going through the same thing. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. It really helps us reach more people and spread the word about the importance of brain health and learning. Thanks for watching. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay curious, stay motivated, and keep fueling your brain. This is the best piece of advice I have ever received on discipline, and it completely changed my relationship with studying and working on my goals. So I want to share this 10-second habit with you guys today, because this small change can make a huge difference in your productivity and in your life. If you find yourself still struggling to get started or getting distracted before you even get started or struggling to motivate yourself to work on your goals, then this tip is going to be massively beneficial for you. Okay, so let's dive into it. So if you're someone who struggles with starting things and following through, you are not alone. Many people struggle with this, myself included. And most people try to solve this problem by focusing on motivation. They'll listen to motivational videos, they'll surround themselves with motivational quotes, they'll watch motivational movies, but there's a big flaw in doing things this way. And that flaw is that motivation is inconsistent. It comes and goes. When you're motivated, you're motivated. When you're not motivated, you're just not motivated. So relying on motivation to get you to follow through and to get you to be consistent is an unreliable strategy because motivation, like I said, is inconsistent. I was listening to this interview with a Navy SEAL named Mark Devine, and he shared the best piece of advice that he has ever received on discipline. He said, "Mark, if you want to know what your life is going to look like in 6 months, look at what you're doing right now. Because what you're doing right now is a great predictor of what your life is going to look like in 6 months." What he meant by this is that your current reality is a reflection of your past habits, and your future reality will be a reflection of your future habits. So if you want to know what your life is going to look like in 6 months, don't look at what you're doing right now. Instead, keep doing what you're doing. Because what you're doing right now is a great predictor of what your life is going to look like in 6 months. So when we think about our goal of becoming more productive or more disciplined, instead of trying to find motivation to help us build better habits, which is very hard to do instead, we should focus on building the habits first, and the motivation will come later. The motivation will come as a result of having built the habit, not the other way around. And we should focus on making the process of building the habit as easy as possible. So here's where the 10-second habit comes in. At the beginning of the video, I gave you a few examples of what this 10-second habit can be. Open your book, put on your study playlist, sip water, set a 25-minute timer. These are all examples of actions that take less than 10 seconds to do. And these actions all lead to studying. They all tell your brain that it's time to study. So for example, every time I sit down to study, I open my computer and I go to a website. And this action tells my brain that it's time to focus and it's time to work. So you want to pick something that's easy to do and that you can do every day. And that will signal to your brain that it is time to study or it is time to work on whatever your goal is. So this is how it works. you pick your action, which again is something that takes less than 10 seconds. You do that action every single time you sit down to study. So if you pick opening your book as your action, you open your book every time you sit down to study. If you pick putting on your playlist as your action, you put on your playlist every time you sit down to study. So you do this action every time you sit down to study. So when you do this action, your brain starts to associate that action with studying. So for me, when I open my computer and go to a website, my brain immediately goes into focus mode. Immediately I'm ready to work, because my brain knows that sitting in front of my computer with my notes open and my book open means it's time to study. There's no longer a need for motivation. My brain doesn't ask me, are you sure you want to study? Are you sure you want to work? No. My brain just gets to work because it knows it's time to work. So you want to do this 7 days straight? Do this action every time you sit down to study for 7 days straight. And after you've done it for 7 days, you're going to do it for 2 weeks. After you've done it for 2 weeks, you're going to do it for a month. And the key is to stick with it. Even when you don't feel like it, even when you don't have any motivation, stick with it. Keep doing your 10-second habit every day, no matter what. And after you've done it for a while, you're not even going to think about it anymore. It's going to become second nature. It's going to be able to do it without any effort. That's when you know it's really stuck. It's when you know it's really become part of your routine. Now, I'm not saying that this is easy to do. In fact, I know it's not. Building new habits is hard. It takes a lot of self-control, and it takes a lot of mental energy. But the payoff is worth it. Because once you've built this habit and you've stuck with it, you're going to find yourself studying more. You're going to find yourself being more productive and reaching your goals much faster and easier. Okay, so now I want you to take some action. I want you to comment below and tell me what your 10-second habit is going to be. Comment below and let me know what you're going to do every time you sit down to study. Every time you sit down to work on your goals. Let me know what you're going to do. And I want you to actually write it down. Writing it down makes you more likely to stick with it. So write it down and then comment below and let me know what you wrote down. Discipline isn't about motivation. Motivation is great. We all want to be motivated all the time, but we can't. And motivation isn't reliable. Motivation isn't consistent. So we can't rely on motivation to get us to reach our goals. Instead, we should focus on building good habits and focusing on designing our environment in a way that makes it easy to follow through on our goals, easy to be productive. And that's what the 10-second habit is all about. It's about designing your environment in a way that makes it easy to be productive and to follow through on your goals. So remember, if you want to be more productive, if you want to follow through on your goals, if you want to be more successful, it's not about motivation. It's about what you do consistently over time. It's about your habits. So build good habits. Build the 10-second habit. Focus on making the process of achieving your goals as easy as possible. And remember that your future is a reflection of your present. So if you want to know what your future is going to look like, look at what you're redoing right now. Because what you're redoing right now is a great predictor of what your future is going to look like. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this helps.